Welcome or welcome back to the Literary Lori YouTube channel. I'm Literary Lori, and if you love reading books or writing books that center the lives of Black people and other people of color globally, you are in the right place because I love those things too. And that's why I created this YouTube channel to share my love of books and all the bookish things, and to document my journey going from being a journalism professor and journalist and award-winning nonfiction author in the United States to being a novelist who lives a global literary life in the south of Spain. But this video today is not about me. This video is day 3 of my special series for Black Literary History Month. Yes, I celebrate Black literary history instead of Black history in the month of February because I'm Black and bookish and I like to make everything literary when I can. So it is day 3, February 3rd. Who are we talking about today? Today we have our first contemporary author, the first author who is still alive, and that is Victor LaValle. Yes, so this is going to be a bit of a shorter episode because Victor's still alive. He's still got a life to live, but we still want to highlight him because he's Black. He's born in February, and he is an incredible, prolific author. So Victor was born on this day, February 3rd, in the early 70s. He was raised in Queens by his mother, who was from Uganda, and grandmother. So both of his mother and grandmother from Uganda, and he grew up in Queens. Now, Victor, interestingly, I think this is really cool that he is known as one of the greatest kind of current horror writers that there are today. I am not a horror reader, so I take, obviously I read what other people say and I understand why he's recognized this way. But Victor did not actually start out writing horror. He started out writing literary fiction. So his first book was a collection of short stories called Slapboxing with Jesus. That alone makes me love Victor. That is such a great title, right? Slapboxing with Jesus. And then he continued to write different novels, literary novels, or what we would consider literary fiction. But then slowly but surely evolved into his genre, which I think is unique, which is literary horror. So other books that he's written include The Ecstatic, Big Machine, The Devil in Silver, The Changeling. And The Changeling might be the book that most people might know Victor by because that book was turned into a movie that appeared on Apple TV. And Victor was very involved with that, with the I don't know if the verb would be converting it to TV, but he was very involved in the production of the TV show, or the TV movie, I should say. And that's also one of Victor's claim to fame, is that he's a multi-genre writer. So he writes literary fiction, literary horror, if you will. He writes short stories. He's written comic books. He's written for television and movies. His 2 comic books that people would probably know him from are Destroyer and Eve. And yes, I am reading from my clipboard. I love my clipboard. And now, like I said, this series is about the amazing Black writers born in February. And like I've already read some of the titles of the books that he's written, the comics that he's written. He also writes book reviews and has had his work published in GQ, Essence, The Fader, The Washington Post. So, I mean, I hope you're getting that this man is prolific, multi-talented, again, writes in multiple genres, but he's also been recognized by the highest levels for writers. He has won a Guggenheim Fellowship, the Whitting Award, a World Fantasy Award, the Shirley Jackson Award. So, really, if you want to try literary horror, start with Victor LaValle. So, one other, again, this is not my genre, so I do take what other people say. And I just wanted to read one review of his from the New Republic. They said, Victor LaValle uses the thrills of horror to draw attention to timely matters, and he does so without sucking the joy out of the genre. A striking and original American novelist. High praise, right? So I wanted to I actually have read one of Victor's book. It's called Lone Women. And the reason that, like, what I'm bringing to this story, if you will, is what I think is so incredible about Victor's work is that, again, he started as, I'll just say, a regular novelist, writing about regular people, no horror involved. And as he evolved into writing horror, and again, I think that term literary horror, I mean, I don't think he's the only person in that genre, but he dominates it for sure. What I love is that even though I'm not interested in horror. Horror scares me. I do not like to read horror. I still picked up Lone Women because it sounded so interesting, because it centers the life of a Black woman who goes to Montana in the early 1900s as part of the homesteading movement. Those of you who didn't know, the United States government said that anybody who could stay on the land and work the land for 5 years could own the land. And that's how they, got people to move west. And unlike so many other policies in the United States that were racially exclusive, it didn't matter if you were Black, if you were Latino. It did matter apparently if you were Chinese at the time, which I learned from Victor, who was excluded because this was a time when there was a lot of anti-Asian immigration rhetoric and laws. So, but the point is, this book, kind of opened my eyes to that possibility of Black women and other women of color homesteading. And I read an article that said that Victor saw something about that, and that's actually what inspired him to start writing this book. So I just wanted to read the very first lines from Lone Woman. And now I do have to say, the book starts out like, oh, interesting, a Black woman who's going to go homesteading. Then it gets freaky deaky. Okay, it is Victor LaValle. Still, I really enjoyed the story, and it starts like this. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who live with shame and those who die from it. Come on now, right? So the story is fascinating. It's interesting. It's historically accurate. Again, but then there's scary, spooky things that then happen in the story. So again, I recommend it as a great book if you are interested in seeing how one blends, like racial commentary, historical fiction, and horror. Okay, I'm not genre specific. I like to read all different types of good stories. And if the story centers Black people, especially Black women, and has a multicultural cast, I'm in. So that's why Lone Women appealed to me. I want to just give Victor, again, all the praise for going outside the lines, for breaking barriers, for writing the types of stories that combined all of his interests. And that's super inspirational to any aspiring writers. And speaking of aspiring writers, I just want to share a last little bit. Remember, I promised that there would be some literary lessons that you could apply to your life from these incredible writers that we're highlighting. I keep saying we, it's me. I use that as the royal we. But this was actually a piece of advice that Victor gave to somebody who was asking. He was doing an actual, like a Reddit conversation, and somebody asked what kind of advice he would have. No, I'm sorry. This is not from Reddit. This was actually from an interview from a publication called This Is Who We Are, which is a publication from Columbia University, which is where Victor now works, as he's a professor, teaches creative writing at Columbia. So this is what he said that I thought was really excellent advice for any aspiring writer. And he's talking about developing a habit and a discipline for writing. And he says this, quote, "The great thing I came to understand about routine and that it's the one thing that nobody controls but you. And it's the thing that they can't take away from you. If you sit down and work for half hour a day or 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes every 3 days, whatever life allows, building that repetition is the one superpower you can give to yourself. If nobody immediately notices how good you are, I always tell this to students, it might be years, but if over those years you've built this ability to have routine, when they come to you and say, this is long overdue, but we want that book, you can be like, Oh, I got that book. I got two more too. And there's something very powerful about knowing I still created regardless of what the world gives me, notices, or doesn't. I created. I love that. So I hope that was inspirational for you. I hope if you don't know or hadn't heard of Victor LaValle's work and you're interested in literary horror that also explores themes of race, identity, and current cultural issues, his work is not all historically based at all. Definitely check out Victor LaValle. He has a long list of credits, again, in comic books, in fiction, in short fiction, in TV, movie adaptations. So I know he's going to be continuing to produce amazing work. Say happy birthday to him if you are in touch with him in any way online and so on the socials. And tune in tomorrow for another day of amazing Black literary history. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming for this episode. And again, I'll see you tomorrow.